Right now, in this very moment, you are not just one person. You are countless possibilities, all existing at once, waiting for you to choose which one becomes real. This isn't mystical thinking or wishful philosophy. This is quantum superposition, the scientific reality that particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until they are observed and collapse into one definite state. You are the same. You are living proof of quantum mechanics in action. Every morning when you wake up, you have the potential to be anyone: the confident leader, the creative genius, the peaceful soul, the abundant creator. All these versions of you exist right now in what physicists call the quantum field. But here's what happens. Within seconds of opening your eyes, you collapse into the same old version of yourself, the familiar one, the safe one, the one that carries yesterday's pain and tomorrow's worries. Think about this for a moment. When quantum physicists first discovered that particles exist in multiple states at once, they couldn't believe it. How could something be in two places at the same time? How could an electron be both a wave and a particle? But experiment after experiment proved it true. And here's the mind-blowing part. You operate by the exact same laws. You exist in a state of infinite potential until the moment you observe yourself and collapse into one identity. The version of you reading this right now, that's just one possibility that collapsed into reality. But there are other versions. The one who already has everything you're seeking. The one who walked away from what no longer serves them. The one who said yes when this version said no. They're all real. They're all available. They're all you. This heavy feeling you carry, this sense that something needs to change but you don't know how, that's not confusion. That's awareness. It's your consciousness recognizing that you've been collapsing into the same identity day after day. Like a record player stuck in a groove. You feel the other possibilities calling to you. You sense them in your quietest moments, in your dreams, in those split seconds between sleep and waking when you forget who you're supposed to be. But then it happens. Your eyes open, your feet hit the floor, and boom, you collapse right back into the familiar pattern. Same thoughts, same feelings, same reactions. You don't choose it consciously. It happens so fast, so automatically, that you don't even realize you had other options. Your body remembers how to be the old you before your mind even wakes up. If this truth is stirring something deep within you, press the like button now. This simple action creates a quantum entanglement between your consciousness and this frequency of transformation, activating the collapse into your highest potential. Every single morning, you experience quantum collapse without even knowing it. In those first few seconds of consciousness, before your memories flood back, before you remember your name, your problems, your story, you exist in pure potential. You are the quantum field itself, unlimited and undefined. Then something happens. A thought arises. I have to go to work. A feeling surfaces, that familiar anxiety or heaviness, and in that instant, you collapse from infinite possibilities into one specific identity. Scientists call this the collapse of the wave function. When a quantum system is observed, it stops being everything and becomes something. And you, beautiful soul, are the most sophisticated quantum system in the known universe. Your consciousness is both the observer and the observed. You are watching yourself collapse into form every single day. If this resonates deep within your quantum core, type "I choose" in the comments below. Let these two words become your declaration to the universe that you're no longer collapsing unconsciously, but choosing consciously which version of yourself becomes real. This isn't just happening in your mind. Your entire body participates in this collapse. Your cells remember who you were yesterday. Your nervous system has memorized your emotional patterns. Your heart has learned its familiar rhythm of fear or excitement. Before you've even had your first conscious thought, your body has already chosen which version of you to become. It chooses the one it knows, the one that feels safe, even if it feels terrible. Dr. Joe Dispenza discovered something remarkable about this process. By the time you reach 35 years old, 95% of who you are is just a memorized set of behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions. You're not living. You're running a program. You're not choosing. You're repeating. Every morning, you could collapse into any version of yourself, but instead, you collapse into yesterday's version because that's what your body knows how to do. Here's what's even more fascinating. The moment before collapse, that moment of superposition where all possibilities exist. That's where your power lives. That's where choice lives. That's where transformation lives. But most of us rush through it so quickly that we miss it entirely. We collapse into our old identity before we even realize we had options. Scientists studying quantum mechanics discovered that the act of observation doesn't just reveal reality, it creates it. The observer and the observed are not separate. They are one system, dancing together, creating each other. When you observe yourself through the lens of your past, you collapse into your past. When you observe yourself through the lens of limitation, you collapse into limitation. But what would happen if you observed yourself differently? Your body doesn't just remember your past, it recreates it. Every cell in your body is a quantum computer, storing not just biological information, but energetic patterns, emotional frequencies, and identity codes. When you've spent years being the same person, feeling the same feelings, thinking the same thoughts, your cells become addicted to those specific chemical signals. Fear releases certain hormones. Anxiety triggers specific neurotransmitters. Doubt creates particular chemical cascades. And your cells, these beautiful, intelligent quantum computers, become dependent on these chemicals. They literally crave the biochemistry of your old self. So even when your conscious mind says, "I want to change," your 100 trillion cells are screaming, "Give us what we know." This is why change feels so hard. You're not just changing your mind, you're asking your entire body to go through withdrawal from its familiar chemical state. You're asking every cell to let go of its addiction to being who you've always been. And just like any withdrawal, it's uncomfortable. Your body rebels. It sends you signals of discomfort, anxiety, even panic. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something different. Dr. Bruce Lipton's research shows us something incredible. Your cells don't just respond to your thoughts, they become your thoughts. When you think the same thought repeatedly, your cells restructure themselves to make that thought easier to think again. Neural pathways strengthen, synaptic connections multiply. Your brain literally reshapes itself to make your old patterns more efficient. You become a biological monument to who you used to be. But here's where quantum superposition becomes your greatest ally. Just as particles exist in multiple states at once, your cells have the capacity to exist in multiple emotional states, multiple chemical environments, multiple realities. They don't have to be locked into one pattern. They can learn new songs. They can dance to new rhythms. They can become addicted to joy just as easily as they became addicted to fear. The process is called neuroplasticity, but it's really quantum mechanics at work. Every time you choose a different thought, feel a different emotion, or take a different action, you're collapsing into a slightly different version of yourself. Do it once, and your old pattern snaps back like a rubber band. But do it repeatedly, with intention and awareness, and something magical happens. Your cells begin to expect the new pattern. They begin to crave the new chemicals. They begin to restructure themselves around your new identity. Quantum physics has proven something that mystics have been saying for thousands of years. There isn't just one reality. There are infinite realities, all existing simultaneously, all equally real, all waiting for consciousness to collapse them into experience. This isn't science fiction. This is science fact, demonstrated in laboratories around the world. In the famous double-slit experiment, scientists shot electrons at a barrier with two openings. When no one was watching, the electrons behaved like waves, passing through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern. But the moment someone observed them, they collapsed into particles, choosing one slit or the other. The implications are staggering. Reality exists as potential until consciousness chooses which version becomes real. You are living this experiment every moment of every day. Your life exists as waves of possibility until you observe it and collapse it into one specific experience. The relationship you're in? That's one collapsed possibility. The job you have? Another collapsed possibility. The health you experience? The abundance you enjoy or lack? The joy you feel or don't feel? All collapsed possibilities from an infinite field of potential. String theory takes this even further, suggesting that there are at least 11 dimensions of reality, most of which we can't perceive with our physical senses. But our consciousness isn't limited to physical senses. Our consciousness can navigate these dimensions, can sense these other possibilities, can feel the pull of alternate realities where different versions of us are living different lives. Have you ever had a moment where you felt like your life could go in two completely different directions? Where you stood at a crossroads and felt both futures pulling at you? That's not imagination. That's your consciousness sensing the quantum field, feeling the different realities that are available to you, waiting for you to choose which one to collapse into. This is why sometimes you feel like you're living the wrong life. Because in a very real sense, you are. You've collapsed into a reality that doesn't match your highest potential. You've chosen, unconsciously, to keep collapsing into a version of yourself that was created by past trauma, past fear, past limitation. But those other versions of you, the confident one, the successful one, the joyful one, they still exist. They're still available. They're still calling to you from the quantum field. Every moment contains a pause, a breath, a space where all possibilities exist before one becomes real. Quantum physicists call this the superposition state. Ancient traditions called it the gap between thoughts. Modern mystics call it the zero-point field. Whatever you call it, it's the most powerful place in the universe because it's where choice lives. Most of us rush through these moments without recognizing them. We wake up and immediately collapse into our familiar identity. We encounter a challenge and instantly collapse into our habitual response. Someone triggers us, and we automatically collapse into our programmed reaction. We move so fast from possibility to actuality that we forget we had a choice. But what if you could slow down that moment? What if you could stretch that space between stimulus and response between potential and collapse. What if you could actually catch yourself in the act of choosing which version of yourself to become? This is what meditation really is. Not emptying your mind, but dwelling in that space of pure potential before collapse. This is what presence really means. Not just being here now, but being aware of all the possibilities that exist in this now. This is what consciousness really offers. Not just the ability to think, but the ability to choose which reality you want to think into existence. Right now, as you read these words, you exist in superposition. Part of you is skeptical, part of you is hopeful, part of you is tired, part of you is energized, part of you wants to change, part of you wants to stay safe. All these versions of you are real, all these versions are valid, but in the next moment, you'll collapse into one. Which one will you choose? This choice isn't made once. It's made thousands of times every day. Every thought is a collapse. Every emotion is a collapse. Every word you speak, every action you take, every reaction you have. All of them are moments where you collapse from infinite potential into one specific reality. And most of the time, you collapse into the same patterns, the same identity, the same limited version of yourself. If you're feeling this shift beginning, affirm below, I am possibilities. Let writing these words anchor you in superposition, in that space of infinite potential before collapse. Your nervous system has become an expert at collapsing you into your familiar identity. It happens so fast, so automatically, that it feels like you don't have a choice. Something happens. A bill arrives. Someone criticizes you. An opportunity presents itself. And before you can even think about it, you've already collapsed into your predictable response. Your body knows exactly which chemicals to release, which muscles to tense, which thoughts to think. This automatic collapse is what keeps you trapped. It's not your circumstances that imprison you. It's your nervous system's addiction to collapsing into the same patterns. You've practiced being yourself so many times that your body can do it without any input from your conscious mind. You've become a master at being who you've always been. But mastery can be redirected. The same nervous system that automatically collapses you into limitation can be trained to automatically collapse you into expansion. The same body that craves familiar chemicals can learn to crave elevated emotions. The same neural pathways that fire in predictable patterns can be rewired to fire in new, empowering ways. This is where the real work begins. Not in trying harder or pushing yourself, but in becoming aware of the moment before collapse. When you feel that familiar emotion arising, can you pause? When that habitual thought appears, can you question it? When your body wants to react in its programmed way, can you choose differently? At first, this feels impossible. The pull of the familiar is so strong. Your cells are screaming for their chemical fix. Your neural pathways are like deep grooves that your thoughts naturally fall into. But every time you pause, every time you choose differently, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen a new one. You're literally rebuilding yourself at a quantum level. Think of it like this. Your old identity is like a black hole with its own gravitational pull. It wants to suck everything into it. Every thought, every feeling, every experience gets pulled into the gravity of who you've always been. But consciousness is stronger than gravity. Awareness is more powerful than automation. And choice, conscious choice, can escape even the strongest pull of the past. If you're ready to escape the gravitational pull of your old self, subscribe now. This creates a quantum bridge between your consciousness and this transformational frequency. ensuring you receive the energetic transmissions that support your continued evolution. When you decide to stop collapsing into your old self, your body goes into shock. It's been producing the same chemical cocktail for years, maybe decades. Cortisol at 7 a.m. when you think about work. Adrenaline at noon when you check your bank account. A splash of worry hormones before bed. Your body knows this recipe by heart. It's been your biochemical signature, as unique as your fingerprint. Now suddenly, you're asking your body to stop. You're refusing to give it the stress chemicals it's addicted to. You're denying it the familiar emotions it craves. And just like someone quitting coffee or sugar, your body rebels. You might feel anxious for no reason, irritable without cause. Your body is literally going through withdrawal from your old self. This is why so many people give up on change. They interpret these uncomfortable feelings as signs that something is wrong, that they should go back to who they were. But these feelings are actually proof that the transformation is working. Your old identity is dying at a cellular level, and death, even the death of what no longer serves you, can feel uncomfortable. But here's what's beautiful. As your body releases its addiction to the old chemicals, it becomes available for new ones. Gratitude produces different hormones than fear. Joy creates different neurotransmitters than anxiety. Love floods your system with chemicals that heal instead of harm. And your cells, these brilliant quantum computers, can learn to crave these new chemicals just as strongly as they craved the old ones. The transition period typically takes about 3 to 4 weeks. That's how long it takes for your body to break its chemical addiction to your old emotional states. During this time, you're in quantum flux. You're neither your old self nor your new self. You're in superposition, existing as pure potential, ready to collapse into something unprecedented. This is sacred time. This is when you're most powerful, most creative, most capable of genuine transformation. Don't rush through it. Don't try to make it comfortable. Let yourself exist in the uncertainty, in the space between who you were and who you're becoming. This is where miracles happen. This is where you discover that you were never as solid as you thought. You were always fluid, always changeable, always capable of collapsing into something magnificent. In quantum mechanics, there's a principle that shook the scientific world to its core: the observer effect. Simply put, the act of observation changes what is being observed. An electron isn't in a definite location until someone looks at it. A particle doesn't choose its state until consciousness collapses it into reality. The observer and the observed are not separate. They are one system, creating each other in every moment. You are both the observer and the observed in your own life. The way you observe yourself determines which version of you collapses into reality. When you observe yourself through the lens of your wounds, you collapse into a wounded reality. When you observe yourself through the lens of your power, you collapse into an empowered reality. The observer in you is the creator in you. But here's what most people don't understand. You're not observing objective reality. You're observing possibility and collapsing it into experience through the quality of your observation. Your consciousness isn't passive. It's the active force that chooses which potential becomes actual. Every time you look at your life, you're not just seeing what is, you're creating what is through the act of seeing. This is why two people can experience the same event completely differently. They're not just interpreting it differently. They're literally collapsing it into different realities through their observation. One person observes opportunity, another observes obstacle. One sees blessing, another sees burden. And both are right because both are creating their experience through their observation. The quality of your consciousness determines the quality of your collapse. If your consciousness is clouded by past pain, you'll collapse reality through that filter. If your consciousness is clear and present, you'll collapse reality from a space of pure potential. This isn't positive thinking. This is quantum mechanics. Your consciousness is the lens through which infinite possibility becomes singular experience. So the question becomes, how are you observing yourself right now? Through what lens are you collapsing your potential into reality? Are you observing yourself as someone struggling or as someone growing? Are you seeing yourself as stuck or as someone in transition? Are you collapsing into the story of who you've been or into the possibility of who you're becoming? If you're ready to observe differently, declare in the comments, "New Observer." This simple act of writing signals your quantum field that you're shifting from unconscious to conscious observation. The old you doesn't have to be destroyed, it simply needs to stop being observed. When you stop observing yourself as that person, when you stop collapsing into that identity, it naturally dissolves back into the quantum field. It becomes just one of many possibilities instead of your only reality. This is the secret of transformation that nobody talks about. You don't have to fight your old self. You don't have to overcome it or defeat it. You simply have to stop choosing it, stop observing it, stop collapsing into it, and start observing, start choosing, start collapsing into something else. But what is this something else? It's not a fantasy version of yourself that you have to construct from scratch. It's a version of you that already exists in the quantum field. Remember, in superposition, all possibilities exist simultaneously. The confident you, the abundant you, the peaceful you, the creative you, they're all real. They're all available. They're all waiting for you to observe them into existence. The process is simpler than your mind wants to make it. Right now, close your eyes and feel into a different version of yourself. Not the one who's reading this with all your current problems and patterns, but the one who has already transformed. Feel their energy. Feel their peace. Feel their certainty. They're not in the future. They're in a parallel now, a different collapse of the same quantum potential. When you open your eyes, you have a choice. You can collapse back into your familiar identity, or you can maintain the frequency of this new version. You can observe yourself as who you've always been, or you can observe yourself as who you're becoming. The quantum field doesn't care which you choose. It simply responds to your choice with mathematical precision. This is why pretending doesn't work. You can't fake a frequency. You can't trick the quantum field. You have to actually shift your observation, actually change your consciousness, actually collapse into a different state. It's not about what you say or what you visualize. It's about which version of yourself you're observing into existence in this moment. Every version of you vibrates at a different frequency. The worried you has one frequency. The confident you has another. The scarce you vibrates differently than the abundant you. These aren't just metaphors. These are measurable electromagnetic signatures that your body broadcasts into the quantum field. Scientists have discovered that your heart generates an electromagnetic field that extends several feet beyond your body. This field carries information about your emotional state, your identity, your consciousness. When you collapse into fear, your field broadcasts fear. When you collapse into love, your field broadcasts love. And the quantum field responds to these broadcasts by organizing reality to match them. This is why you can walk into a room and immediately feel someone's energy. Their electromagnetic field is interacting with yours, exchanging information at a quantum level. You're not just sensing their mood, you're experiencing their collapsed reality, the version of themselves they've chosen to observe into existence. Your frequency is your calling card to the universe. It announces who you are before you speak, before you act, before you even think. And the universe, operating by the laws of resonance and attraction, responds by bringing you experiences that match your frequency. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. More precisely, you attract what you're observing yourself to be. Changing your frequency isn't about forcing yourself to feel positive emotions. It's about genuinely collapsing into a different version of yourself. When you truly observe yourself as abundant, your frequency shifts to abundance. When you genuinely collapse into confidence, your electromagnetic field broadcasts confidence. The shift has to be real, has to be embodied, has to be lived at a cellular level. This is why affirmations often don't work. You can say, "I am abundant," 1,000 times, but if you're observing yourself as scarce, if you're collapsing into lack, your frequency remains unchanged. The quantum field doesn't hear your words. It feels your state. It doesn't respond to what you claim. It responds to what you are. If you feel your frequency shifting, type "frequency shift" below. Let these words vibrate through the quantum field, announcing your new electromagnetic signature to the universe. Now we're going to learn how to consciously choose which version of yourself to collapse into. This isn't a one-time event. It's a practice, a skill, an art form that you develop over time. Every master of consciousness, from ancient mystics to modern quantum physicists, has understood this principle. Reality is created in the moment of collapse, and you can learn to direct that collapse. Start with the morning, that precious moment when you first become conscious. Before you open your eyes, before you remember who you are, pause. Feel yourself existing in superposition, in pure potential. You could be anyone. You could feel anything. All possibilities exist in this moment. Now, consciously choose, not from your head, but from your whole being. Which version of yourself do you want to collapse into today? Feel it in your body. The confident version of you has a different posture, even lying in bed. The peaceful version breathes differently. The abundant version has a different energy in their cells. Don't think about it. Feel into it. And then, with intention and awareness, collapse into that version. Open your eyes as that person. Rise from bed as that identity. Begin your day from that frequency. Throughout the day, you'll have countless opportunities to practice. Every interaction, every challenge, every moment of choice is a chance to consciously collapse into your highest potential. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Which version of you responds? You receive unexpected news. Which identity do you collapse into? You face a familiar trigger. Who do you choose to be? The key is to catch yourself in the moment before automatic collapse. That split second where you could go either way. That's your point of power. That's where you reclaim your authority over your reality. It takes practice. At first, you'll miss it most of the time, collapsing into old patterns before you even realize you had a choice. But with practice, you'll get faster at catching yourself, better at pausing, more skilled at choosing. This practice changes everything. It transforms you from a victim of circumstance into a conscious creator. It shifts you from being at the mercy of your patterns to being the author of your experience. It elevates you from unconscious reaction to conscious creation. And as you get better at it, something miraculous happens. Your default state begins to shift. The new version becomes easier to collapse into than the old one. Subscribe to anchor yourself in this new way of being. Each notification becomes a quantum reminder, a gentle collapse into your highest timeline, a vibrational attunement to your unlimited potential. Let's be honest about something. Your old self isn't going to go quietly. It's going to fight for its survival. Not because it's evil or wrong, but because it genuinely believes it's protecting you. That identity was formed in moments of pain, created as armor against a world that hurt you. It thinks it's keeping you safe. So when you start collapsing into new versions of yourself, your old identity will resurface. Usually when you're tired, stressed, or triggered. Suddenly, you'll find yourself thinking the old thoughts, feeling the old feelings, collapsing into the old patterns. And in that moment, you might think you've failed. You might believe that nothing has changed, that you're right back where you started. But you're not. Every time you consciously choose a different collapse, even if it only lasts for a moment, you're weakening the gravitational pull of your old identity. You're proving to your nervous system that other options exist. You're teaching your cells that they can survive without their familiar chemicals. You're showing your consciousness that it has the power to choose. When the old self returns, and it will, meet it with compassion, not resistance. Thank it for trying to protect you. Acknowledge its fear, and then gently, firmly choose again. Collapse into something different. Not through force, but through love. Not through fighting, but through choosing. Remember, what you resist persists, but what you stop observing dissolves. Think of your old self like a child who's afraid of being abandoned. If you fight with it, it clings tighter. If you shame it, it gets louder. But if you love it, acknowledge it, and then gently redirect your attention to who you're becoming, it gradually learns to let go. It realizes it's safe to evolve. It understands that transformation isn't death, it's growth. Some days will be harder than others. Some moments, the pull of the old identity will feel overwhelming. Your body will crave its familiar chemicals. Your mind will insist on its familiar thoughts. Your emotions will demand their familiar patterns. In these moments, remember, this is temporary. This is your quantum system reorganizing itself. This is the chaos that precedes new order. If you're experiencing this quantum reorganization, affirm below, I release. These two words signal your willingness to let the old patterns dissolve back into the field of infinite possibility. When you collapse into a new version of yourself, you don't just change your personal reality. You create ripples in the quantum field that affect everything and everyone around you. This isn't metaphorical, it's physics. Your electromagnetic field interacts with other fields, exchanging information, influencing probabilities, shifting possibilities. People will notice something different about you, even if they can't explain what it is. Some will be drawn to your new frequency, attracted by resonance to the elevated version of you. Others might pull away, uncomfortable with the mirror your transformation holds up to their own stagnation. Both responses are perfect. Both are part of the quantum reorganization happening around your shift. Your transformation gives others permission to transform. When you collapse into a higher version of yourself, you show others that it's possible. You become living proof that identity isn't fixed, that reality isn't solid, that change isn't just possible, but natural. You become a walking invitation for others to explore their own quantum potential. But the ripples go even beyond the people in your immediate life. The quantum field is non-local. meaning that changes in one part affect the whole. When you elevate your frequency, you contribute to the elevation of collective consciousness. When you collapse into love instead of fear, you make it easier for others to do the same. When you choose peace over anxiety, you add peace to the global field. This is why your transformation matters. It's not just about you living a better life, although that's important. It's about you contributing to the evolution of consciousness itself. Every time you consciously collapse into a higher version of yourself, you're participating in the quantum evolution of our species. You're not just changing your story, you're changing the story. Don't underestimate the power of your individual transformation. History is full of individuals whose personal evolution catalyzed collective change. They didn't try to change the world, they changed themselves, and the world reorganized around their new frequency. You have that same power. You are that same possibility. Here's the ultimate secret. You don't have to collapse into just one identity and stay there forever. You can learn to live in conscious superposition, fluidly moving between different versions of yourself as the moment requires. This isn't multiple personality disorder. It's quantum mastery. Sometimes you need to collapse into the warrior version of yourself. Sometimes the healer. Sometimes the creator, the leader, the mystic, the child. All these versions exist within you simultaneously. The key is learning to consciously choose which one to collapse into based on what the moment is calling for, rather than automatically defaulting to your habitual identity. This is what true freedom looks like. Not being locked into one way of being, but having access to your full spectrum of possibility. Not being at the mercy of unconscious patterns, but consciously choosing which aspect of your infinite nature to express. This is living as a quantum being rather than a fixed personality. Masters of consciousness throughout history have understood this. They could be fierce when fierceness was needed, gentle when gentleness was called for. They could collapse into whatever version of themselves would serve the highest good in any given moment. They weren't inconsistent. They were quantum. They weren't unstable. They were fluid. You have this same capacity. You can learn to sense which version of you is needed and collapse into it consciously. Parent, partner, professional, mystic, athlete, artist, all these and more exist within your quantum potential. The question isn't which one is the real you. They're all real. The question is which one serves this moment. This doesn't mean being fake or inauthentic. It means recognizing that authenticity isn't about being the same all the time. It's about being true to your infinite nature, your quantum essence, your unlimited potential. It's about stopping the pretense that you're just one thing and embracing the truth that you're everything. If you're ready to live as your quantum self, declare, "I am quantum." Let this affirmation collapse you into the version of yourself that flows freely between all possibilities. Letting go isn't just a spiritual concept, it's a quantum necessity. In superposition, all possibilities exist simultaneously. But for one to manifest, the others must be released. You cannot collapse into your new self while still clinging to the old. You cannot embody your future while gripping your past. The act of letting go is the act of choosing which possibility becomes reality. Think of it like this. Your consciousness is like a quantum computer that can only run one program at a time. As long as you're running the program of your old identity, you cannot run the program of your new one. Letting go is how you close the old program, how you free up your processing power, how you make space for something new to run. But letting go at a quantum level is different from just deciding to let go. It requires a complete release at every level of your being: mental, emotional, physical, and energetic. Your thoughts have to let go. Your emotions have to let go. Your cells have to let go. Your electromagnetic field has to let go. This is why it feels so challenging. You're not just changing your mind, you're changing your entire quantum state. The beautiful paradox is that the moment you truly let go, the moment you stop observing your old self into existence, it immediately begins to dissolve. Not slowly, not gradually, but instantly. In quantum mechanics, collapse happens in no time. The wave becomes a particle instantaneously, and the reverse is also true. The moment you stop collapsing into a particular identity, it returns to being just potential, just one of infinite possibilities. This is why holding on is so exhausting. You're literally using your life force, your creative energy, your quantum power to keep collapsing into an identity that no longer serves you. Every moment you maintain your old self requires energy. Every second you observe it into existence drains your vitality. Letting go isn't just liberating, it's energizing. It frees up all the power you've been using to maintain your limitation. So what are you ready to let go of? Not tomorrow, not after you figure it all out, but right now, in this moment. What identity are you ready to stop observing into existence? What version of yourself are you ready to let dissolve back into the quantum field? The moment you decide, the moment you truly let go, you'll feel something shift. A lightness, a spaciousness, a sense of possibility. That's the feeling of superposition. That's the feeling of existing as pure potential, ready to collapse into something magnificent. Start small. Start with the next breath. Can you collapse into a version of yourself that breathes more deeply, more peacefully? Can you observe yourself as someone who is calm, centered, confident? Not forever, just for this breath. Then the next. Then the next. Build your quantum muscle gradually, learning to direct your collapse consciously rather than unconsciously. The old you is already fading, not because you're fighting it, but because you're no longer choosing it. With each conscious collapse into your higher self, the old patterns lose their power. The familiar chemicals lose their hold. The automatic responses lose their authority. And in their place, something new emerges. Not something you have to build or earn or achieve, but something you simply allow by observing it into existence. You are more powerful than you've been taught. You are more fluid than you've believed. You are more quantum than you've imagined. And now that you know this, now that you've felt this truth resonating in your cells, you can never fully go back. The old you cannot survive this shift because you've seen through the illusion of its solidity. The universe is responding to your shift already. Reality is reorganizing around your new frequency. Possibilities that were invisible are becoming visible. Doors that were closed are beginning to open. Not because you're forcing anything, but because you're finally collapsing into the version of yourself that matches the life you've been seeking. This is quantum physics in action. This is consciousness creating reality. This is you recognizing your true nature as a being of infinite potential, learning to consciously collapse into your highest possibility. The old you had its time, served its purpose, taught its lessons. But now it's time for something new. Now it's time to collapse into the version of you that's been waiting in superposition, ready to become real the moment you observe it into existence. Take a breath. Feel the shift. You're not the same person who started reading this. You've already begun to collapse differently. The quantum shift has already begun. Your old self cannot survive what you now know. And that's not a loss, it's liberation. That's not an ending, it's a beginning. The quantum field is alive with your new possibility. Every particle in the universe is responding to your shift in consciousness. You've stopped being a victim of unconscious collapse and become a conscious creator of your reality. This isn't just theory anymore, it's your lived experience. Remember, you exist in multiple states until you choose. Every moment, every breath, every thought is an opportunity to collapse into your highest potential. The old you, built from fear and limitation, can no longer hold you because you've discovered the secret. You were never solid. You were always quantum. You were always free. Seal this transformation by pressing the like button. This act sends a ripple through the quantum field, strengthening your new frequency and magnetizing the reality that matches your elevated state. Now go forward knowing that transformation isn't something you have to chase or earn. It's something you choose, moment by moment, collapse by collapse. Your new reality isn't coming. It's here, waiting for you to observe it into existence. The shift is complete. Your old self has dissolved. Welcome to your quantum life. Share this quantum activation with those who are ready to transform. By spreading this frequency, you become a catalyst for collective evolution, creating a quantum network of souls choosing to collapse into their highest possibilities together. Retry. Your body doesn't just remember your past, it recreates it. Every cell in your body is a quantum computer, storing not just biological information, but energetic patterns, emotional frequencies, and identity codes. When you've spent years being the same person, feeling the same feelings, thinking the same thoughts, your cells become addicted to those specific chemical signals. Fear releases certain hormones. Anxiety triggers specific neurotransmitters. Doubt creates particular chemical cascades. And your cells, these beautiful, intelligent quantum computers, become dependent on these chemicals. They literally crave the biochemistry of your old self. So even when your conscious mind says, "I want to change," your 100 trillion cells are screaming, "Give us what we know." This is why change feels so hard. You're not just changing your mind, you're asking your entire body to go through withdrawal from its familiar chemical state. You're asking every cell to let go of its addiction to being who you've always been. And just like any withdrawal, it's uncomfortable. Your body rebels. It sends you signals of discomfort, anxiety, even panic. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something different. Dr. Bruce Lipton's research shows us something incredible. Your cells don't just respond to your thoughts, they become your thoughts. When you think the same thought repeatedly, your cells restructure themselves to make that thought easier to think again. Neural pathways strengthen, synaptic connections multiply. Your brain literally reshapes itself to make your old patterns more efficient. You become a biological monument to who you used to be. But here's where quantum superposition becomes your greatest ally. Just as particles exist in multiple states at once, your cells have the capacity to exist in multiple emotional states, multiple chemical environments, multiple realities. They don't have to be locked into one pattern. They can learn new songs. They can dance to new rhythms. They can become addicted to joy just as easily as they became addicted to fear. The process is called neuroplasticity, but it's really quantum mechanics at work. Every time you choose a different thought, feel a different emotion, or take a different action, you're collapsing into a slightly different version of yourself. Do it once. and your old pattern snaps back like a rubber band. But do it repeatedly, with intention and awareness, and something magical happens. Your cells begin to expect the new pattern. They begin to crave the new chemicals. They begin to restructure themselves around your new identity.